Is it possible that a single name, a single voice, and a series of digital numbers could shake the foundations of the United States music industry? An industry built over decades by giant labels, legendary executives, and power structures that have long seemed untouchable. The question sounds exaggerated, somewhat provocative, until an undeniable fact appears on the screen. More than 10 billion streams on Spotify, amassed by an Asian soloist named Jungkook. Not a group, not a massive cross-label collaboration involving major American companies, but one individual emerging from an industry that for years has been positioned by the West as a niche market. And it is at this point that the unease begins. 10 billion streams are not merely a statistical figure. Within the US music ecosystem, that number is a symbol of power. It determines who is heard, who is promoted, who is given the stage, and who is granted the legitimacy to be called a global star. For decades, that legitimacy has been tightly guarded by the centers of power in the US music industry: giant labels, major radio networks, distribution systems, and influential figures such as Tommy Mottola, a man known from the 1990s through the early 2000s as an architect of global pop taste. Now, however, an anomaly has emerged from outside that system, and it arrives without asking permission. Jungkook, a member of BTS who now stands as a global soloist, is officially recorded as the only Asian solo artist with 4 solo songs, each surpassing 1.1 billion streams on Spotify. 7, released in July 2023, has exceeded 2.7 billion streams and become an unstoppable cross-cultural phenomenon. Left and Right, his collaboration with Charlie Puth, released in June 2022, reached around 1.14 billion streams and demonstrated that Jungkook's voice can live and breathe at the heart of Western pop without losing its identity. Standing Next to You, part of his first solo album Golden, released in November 2023, has logged more than 1.38 billion streams, affirming that his appeal is not the result of a single lucky song. Meanwhile, 3D, featuring Jack Harlow, has just crossed 1.1 billion streams, solidifying a record that even the most optimistic music analysts once found hard to imagine. This announcement first surfaced through a post by Jungkook's official fanbase, at jimochii Steam on the platform X. A simple yet loaded graphic displayed Jungkook's face alongside 4 song titles and staggering stream counts. The caption was brief, but its implications were vast. Jungkook is the only Asian soloist with 4 songs exceeding 1.1 billion streams on Spotify. The post quickly spread, viewed thousands of times, and flooded with likes, reposts, and emotional comments from ARMY fans worldwide. Yet behind the fan euphoria lies another, far quieter layer, one inhabited by decision-makers within the US music industry. In the United States, the music industry functions not only as a creative space but also as a system of economic and cultural power. It shapes the global narrative about who deserves to be at the center of attention. For years, non-Western artists have often been framed as regional phenomena, their success attributed to exoticism or fan loyalty, rather than structural competitiveness. Jungkook, with 10 billion streams as a soloist, shatters that assumption brutally. These numbers do not come from a single region, do not depend on a single language, and are not confined to one culture. They emerge from the same global streaming system that has long served as the benchmark for the success of American artists. This is what makes Jungkook's achievement unsettling for the US music industry. Not because he is successful, but because his success does not follow the old script. He did not go through the traditional process of Western validation, was not shaped by an American label from the start of his solo career, and did not rely on US radio as the primary engine of popularity. Spotify, with its global algorithm, bears witness to the fact that listeners' tastes have moved beyond the geographic boundaries that were once so carefully guarded. When an Asian artist can accumulate more than 10 billion streams as a soloist, the question is no longer about genre or country of origin, but about who truly holds control now. This is where the name Tommy Mottola becomes relevant again, even if it is not mentioned directly in any official statement. Mottola is not merely a former CEO of Sony Music Entertainment. He symbolizes an era when the US music industry held near absolute power in deciding who became a global star. He shaped the careers of major artists, controlled distribution pathways, and deeply understood how cultural power operates. As Jungkook's numbers now circulate widely and become a global talking point, many observers wonder, how do the old architects of the industry read this phenomenon? Is it merely an anomaly, or a sign that the center of gravity of global music has shifted? What makes the situation even more dramatic is the timing. Jungkook reached this record while serving mandatory military duty in South Korea since December 2023. At a moment when he is not physically active on the global stage, his music continues to move, grow, and break new boundaries. This challenges the industry's long-held logic that emphasizes physical presence, intensive promotion, and tight media narrative control as prerequisites for success. Jungkook proves that in the streaming era, the power of music can exist independently, detached from the artist's physical presence. K-pop observers and global chart analysts view this achievement as evidence of Jungkook's dominance in the digital era. An analyst from kwrb.net has described Jungkook as not merely an idol, but a pioneer who has brought K-pop to a global level in an unprecedented way. His collaborations with Western artists such as Latto, Charlie Puth, and Jack Harlow are not simply marketing strategies, but cultural bridges that expand his musical reach without sacrificing identity. Yet for the US music industry, these collaborations also suggest something deeper. Asian artists are no longer guests on the Western stage. They are now central players. As Jungkook matches BTS's record as the Asian act with the most songs surpassing 1.1 billion streams, and even surpasses it as a soloist with more than 10 billion total streams, the boundary between global group and global soloist collapses. This is not merely a story of individual success, but of structural change within the industry. Spotify as a platform has become a new arena where old power structures are openly tested, and the results do not always favor those who have long sat at the top. A larger question thus hangs in the air. If Jungkook's numbers can shake the US music industry without a single political statement or open confrontation, then what does American cultural power mean in the era of global streaming? Do figures like Tommy Mottola see this as an early warning, or as proof that the system they built is entering an unavoidable phase of transition? Beneath the cheers of fans and viral statistical graphics, a quiet transformation is underway, and America, for the first time in a long while, may no longer be the sole center of the story. If the United States music industry has one language that is the most honest, that language is not press releases, exclusive interviews, or speeches on award show stages, but silence. And in Jungkook's case, it is precisely that silence that sounds the loudest. There has been no official rebuttal, no lengthy explanation from major American labels, nor any open analysis from senior executives about the meaning of 10 billion streams accumulated by an Asian soloist. Yet the absence of those voices is not a sign of indifference. On the contrary, it signals something far more complex: structural confusion. For several decades, the US music industry has been built on clear hierarchies. There is a center and a periphery, primary markets and supporting markets, global artists and regional artists. This system operates not only through physical distribution or radio promotion, but through narratives about who is considered universal and who is labeled local. Jungkook, through his achievements on Spotify, breaks that narrative chain from within. He does not wait for recognition from the old center, but instead leverages a global platform that actively weakens those boundaries. Spotify, in this context, is not merely a streaming service. It is a machine for redistributing power. Its algorithm does not recognize geopolitics, label history, or the reputations of legendary executives. It responds to listener behavior. When Jungkook's songs continue to be played, saved, and shared across the world, the system automatically elevates them into spaces long dominated by American artists. This is the moment when the US music industry is forced to confront a new reality. Control over global taste is no longer fully in its hands. For figures like Tommy Mottola, this shift carries deep symbolic meaning. Mottola represents an era when music industry power was centralized. He understood that major stars were created not only by talent, but by systems capable of repeating exposure, shaping public perception, and controlling distribution flows. In that world, Asian markets were often positioned as territories of expansion rather than primary sources of global legitimacy. Jungkook reverses that logic in an almost ironic way. He does not come to conquer America. Rather, America is gradually compelled to acknowledge his presence. What makes this phenomenon even harder to ignore is its consistency. Jungkook's 4 songs, each surpassing 1.1 billion streams, are not a statistical coincidence. 7 served as the explosive starting point, but the success of Left and Right showed that Jungkook's appeal could endure within Western pop collaborations. Standing Next to You demonstrated artistic maturity capable of competing with the highest production standards of the US industry, while 3D confirmed that the momentum did not fade, even when public expectations were at their peak. It is this consistency that most unsettles the old system, because it eliminates the argument that Jungkook is merely a fleeting phenomenon. Behind the scenes, industry analysts have begun speaking in more cautious terms. Some describe this phenomenon as a post-Western shift in global music, where US dominance does not collapse dramatically, but is gradually eroded by data flows and listener habits. Others see it as the outcome of digital globalization finally reaching maturity. Yet nearly all agree on one point: Jungkook is a symbol of this change, not its sole cause. Fan reactions in the United States reflect this ambiguity as well. On one hand, Jungkook has a large and loyal listener base in the US, evidenced by his song's performance on domestic charts and daily streaming numbers. On the other hand, his success sparks discussions about the identity of the American music industry itself. If non-Western artists can dominate global platforms without passing through traditional American pathways, then what purpose do the old gatekeepers, long so tightly guarded, still serve? This situation becomes even more paradoxical when considering that Jungkook achieved these milestones during his mandatory military service. Within the old framework of the US industry, an artist's absence from the public stage is often associated with declining relevance. With Jungkook, the opposite occurs. His music becomes a kind of autonomous entity that continues to move forward, as if freed from the need for conventional promotion. This is both a dream and a nightmare for the industry. A dream because it reveals music's potential in the digital era, and a nightmare because it reduces the role of human control within it. At this point, the question of Tommy Mottola's reaction is no longer merely about one individual, but about a generation. How do the old architects of the industry interpret a world in which algorithms wield more influence than radio networks, and where global listeners possess collective power far greater than decisions made in a single boardroom in New York or Los Angeles? The silence surrounding Jungkook's achievement may be the most honest acknowledgement that not all change can be named immediately. What is clear is that the figure of 10 billion streams has become an impossible symbol to ignore. It belongs not only to Jungkook, but to a new era in formation. An era in which the center of gravity of global music is shifting, no longer anchored to a single country, a single language, or a single system of power. Amid this shift, the US music industry stands at a crossroads: cling to old logic or adapt to a new reality that cannot be contained. The remaining question now grows sharper and more urgent. If Jungkook can achieve all of this without directly challenging anyone, without declaring open resistance, then what will happen when the next generation arrives with full awareness of their power? Is the United States music industry ready to face a world in which it is no longer the sole arbiter of direction? Or is today's silence merely a pause before an unavoidable reckoning? After all the numbers are counted, the charts shared, and the euphoria subsides, one question remains, and it echoes even louder. What has actually just happened to the United States music industry? Jungkook's 10 billion streams are not merely a personal record or a testament to strong fandom support, but a structural event. They mark a point at which long-standing dominance does not collapse in an explosion, but instead shifts slowly, almost silently, yet irreversibly. This is an uncomfortable moment of reflection. For decades, the US music industry has been accustomed to serving as the center of gravity, the place where global legitimacy is granted. Yet Jungkook emerges as a paradox. He is globally recognized even while not being physically active, even while not following the rhythms of American promotion, and even while coming from an industry system once regarded as alternative. The fact that this achievement occurs while he is still serving mandatory military duty makes it even more symbolic, as if the music itself has transcended the need for human presence. Here, the shadow of figures like Tommy Mottola becomes increasingly significant. Not because he must issue a statement, but because the world he once helped build is now moving in a different direction. An era in which a single executive could shape global taste is gradually being replaced by an era in which millions of listeners make collective decisions every day. Jungkook does not come to replace America, but his presence forces America to share the stage with a world that is far broader and more equal. For a new generation of global artists, Jungkook's achievement becomes a precedent that is both dangerous and liberating. Dangerous for the old system because it proves that centers of power can be bypassed. Liberating for creators because it opens new possibilities. Language, country of origin, and traditional structures are no longer absolute limits. In this context, Jungkook is not merely a singer, but a symbol of cultural transition as BTS is expected to return in 2026. Public expectations are no longer limited to a musical comeback, but extend to the continuation of this larger shift. Will the records continue to grow? Almost certainly. But the more important question concerns the impact. Will the US music industry fully adapt? Or will it continue to cling to the nostalgia of old power? Will figures like Tommy Mottola view this phenomenon as a threat, or as proof that music has finally become truly global? 10 billion streams have answered one thing unequivocally. Jungkook is no longer on the margins of the story. He is at its center. And when that center shifts, the world is forced to adjust. America may remain a major player, but it is no longer alone. In this new era, power is not announced through exclusive contracts or closed boardrooms, but through numbers that cannot be manipulated. Thus, the final question is no longer whether Jungkook will be recognized by the US music industry, but whether the US music industry is ready to accept the reality that a new history is being written, without asking permission, without waiting for approval, and without the possibility of being stopped. Jungkook did not arrive as a challenger who shouts, but as living proof that the center of the world has expanded. Without a manifesto, without confrontation, without political statements, he lets the numbers speak. 10 billion streams become a universal language that no one can dispute, including those who once held control. In this era, history is no longer announced, it simply happens, and the world only realizes it when it is already too late to prevent.